Hello and welcome Carlo to the Stagwell Content Studio here at CES 2026. First, Carlo, I just have to send a massive congratulations to yourself and to the Lenovo team and to Lenovo. Lenovo Tech World that was hosted at the Sphere on Tuesday evening was one of the dominant conversations here at CES. How has this experience been overall for Lenovo with this kind of very staple, prominent moment that Lenovo has had this year at CES 2026?
Thank you for having me. Great to be with you and see you again. And thank you for the kind words about sort of our experience and our representation here at CES. I would say that it is, full stop, it is probably the most significant CES we've ever had, and we are extraordinarily proud to be part of the Sphere. On YY on stage with other industry titans, NVIDIA, Microsoft, just to be able to go see sort of how they're all working together, talk about the just phenomenal and really innovative products that are coming out. It was not only a good representation of our thoughtfulness in design and thoughtfulness about partnership, but also just the experience itself. I don't think I'm ever going to see anything quite like it for the rest of my life.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, you have, I want to speak about gaming in particular. You have a very personal interest as a lifelong gamer, and Lenovo has obviously also had a heavy investment in gaming, not only in the context of consoles, but also kind of the different formats and canvases for building community.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about how gaming has evolved as an industry, but more importantly, how the consumer face of gamers has changed as well.
It is such an interesting topic, and as a person who is extraordinarily passionate about gaming and the gaming community as a whole, it's just something that I feel very strongly about it. And when you look at gaming, the PC gaming market worldwide, right now it's about $80 billion. But the projections are by 2032, it's going to be $150 billion. So it's going to almost double in the next 5 to 6 years. And I would say the inflection point, as I was reflecting back on it, was 2020. And I started to realize over the last couple of years or so that as people were sort of pulled back from the sort of safety of in-person relationships and having conversations, they started to go look at places where they could do that online. And what was interesting about 2020 is as people were looking for outlets to be able to sort of be creative or showcase who they were or just distract themselves from the craziness that was happening.
Right, and this was a COVID. This was
era,
COVID
yes.
2020.
That's
yes,
right.
Yes.
It was really interesting to see that sort of that gaming became kind of a virtual third place, right? You know, this sort of sociological term of places where people go and congregate. That's not their work, that's not their home, but those have always been sort of conceptually physical spaces. And when we think about what happened in 2020 with COVID, as people were trying to figure out a sense of belonging, a sense of sort of community, a sense of camaraderie, they started to go look at gaming as an outlet to go do that. And it's been just the acceleration of people who have gotten familiar with having gaming being part of their lives and actually being part of their identity. So a lot has changed. And what's interesting about it, and one of the things that I'd love to talk to you about, is that when you look at the sort of construct of the people who game, you think about gamers sort of traditionally as males. There's a perception that sort of they live with their parents and they drink Mountain Dew and eat Doritos.
Wearing bathrobes.
Yes. I've seen the South Park
Lounging,
episodes. Yes. But what's interesting about it is that when you sort of look at the demographics, over half of the gaming population globally is women, and we don't think about that. And not only that, when we start to go sub-segment that, you start to realize that even within that demographic, moms, 87% of moms say they game. Now, whether it's to be able to sort of just decompress, and maybe it's Candy Crush, maybe it's a competitive shooter, maybe it's Terraria or Stardew Valley, some place where they can sort of just relax. It's been a remarkable growth in that segment of the population getting into gaming. And one of the things that's always been sort of fundamentally disappointing to me is that many of them have to come from a place of defensiveness. They can't really be their true selves. Whether it's that they get harassed online, whether it's that they feel like there's a difference in skill set when you're talking about competitive gaming. And so what I'm hoping to do, and what I'm hoping we can do at Lenovo, is start to go say, not how do we add women into the conversation, how do we get to a point where we're not excluding 50% of the population from conversations we're having, both with our products, on our platform, and in our communities, and in the gaming sort of dimension itself.
Yeah, and not only women are rising, but also moms,
yes,
in particular,
yes,
are becoming more prominent within the gaming environment.
Yes.
And 50% of those moms actually play with their children.
Yes. Yes.
So it's an opportunity to connect with their children in an environment that is different than
yes,
they would in a kind of a physical world.
Yes.
What counts? I know this is belonging is really important to you, Carlo, and I think driving the brand safety inside of these environments is a priority. It is not an afterthought. What are some of the things that you're seeing will advise regarding how do we create more of a belonging environment, especially for women, especially yes, for moms?
Well, it's a fantastic question. I think too often, and too often what you see is sort of tokenization, which is let's add female gamers into the creative. Let's have sort of shots of women playing games, and that's going to be sort of the sum total of how we represent that segment and how we sort of support that segment in marketing, in demand generation, et cetera. But I think one of the things that I think is most exciting about what we're doing at Lenovo is we're actually asking people from diverse backgrounds to be able to go help us build a product roadmap. How do you start to go build things that have better accessibility? How do you start to go build things that are more tailored towards different parts of the population? And really bringing in diversity of thought into the product roadmap, into our marketing, into how we're addressing the segment. That's one of the things that I think has been really, really endearing about working at Lenovo, is this sense of we want to be here for every gamer, for every small business, for every enterprise customer. We want them to feel like we have a solution for them, and that they can be proud to game on our products, because we are thoughtful not only in the design, but how we are projecting the design principles into these different sort of demographics and inclusiveness, et cetera.
And does that include everything from the game, it's like Legion 5, Legion 7, but also you had an exciting prototype that you rolled out, announced here. Please tell the audience more about that, because
yes,
that's very exciting.
I am, so what you're talking about is something that I am so excited about. So last year at CES, we unveiled a rollable display on our ThinkBook product. It was extraordinarily innovative, got a lot of buzz. But it was interesting because that rollable was more of a portrait, you get top down. And what we unveiled at our space at Milos this CES was something that was, I think, even more interesting as a gamer. And that is this idea that using rollable technology, rollable display technology, to take a traditional 16-inch laptop and turn it into a 24-inch laptop using this technology is a game changer. When you start to go think about how important it is to be able to see sort of field of view and all the details. I put in a request to see if I could beta test this. I'm so excited about it. But it's again just that thoughtfulness about how do we start to go build better products for our customers using feedback that we're getting. It is the innovation that's coming out of the product teams at Lenovo is so inspiring. It's so inspiring.
It really is. And if there's a characteristic or a feature of Lenovo, whether it's your commercial products, your consumer products, or your gaming products, there's an extraordinary consciousness that is taking place related to how does this impact the customer experience, or how does the customer experience inspire the development of that product.
Yes.
Do you think we're going in the right direction with gaming as related to inclusivity, as related to design that does account for different kind of portraits of future gamers? Are we going in the right direction?
I think we are. I think as with anything, you can always do more. But I think that one is just acknowledging that there is a disparity in sort of how people are treated based on lifestyle, based on gender, based on religious identity, et cetera. I think what you're starting to go see is now that we can recognize and acknowledge that, we can start to go advocate for change. And I don't think it is impossible for us to be able to go change every person at an individual molecular level. But what we can do is say that for the brands that care about this, we believe that this is a space for everybody to be their best selves, to be a different self, to be included, and to feel like they can be part of a broader global community. And so I think if I was to say, like, how do you measure progress in this? It's not necessarily in how many more times can I see a display advertisement that has a woman gaming on a laptop. It is, you start to go look at this and say, are women feeling more comfortable gaming and being their true selves? Do they feel like they can find a place, whether it's on Discord, whether it's in our Lenovo community where we have hundreds of thousands of active gaming customers and registrants having conversations? It's really about just making sure that there is a place for everybody, and that we can go and start to say, we could be better than this collectively. And just treat people better, and enjoy the time that we have to do the things that we love. Why not?
Yeah. So speaking of do the things that we love,
Yes.
You're a lifelong gamer.
Yes.
There was a moment where maybe competition was the primary motive to engage. How do you define the benefit to you as a lifelong gamer? Like, is it about community? Is it about competition? What is the primary benefit?
I think it's individual preference, and I would say that we have when you start to go look at the gaming segment, you have casual gamers. These are the people as like my mom or my adult friends who are moms, who just like to be able to go get on their Android or iPhone and have a game of Candy Crush. And spend a lot of money on Candy Crush. And then you go into the sort of everyday gamer, people who just want to take a couple of hours out of their day when the kids have gone to bed and they can just sit down and just mindlessly do something, all the way up to the competitive gamers and esports, etc. And that's a very personal question. For me, what I can tell you is I find extraordinary value in the fact that I can connect with my friends anytime I want to, no matter where they are in the world. So, for example, every Sunday, I have a game with 5 of my closest friends, and we've done it for years and years and years. No matter where we are in the world, we get together for 3 hours, and we just have fun. And to be able to go do that with people that live thousands of miles away, across the world in Europe, I mean, it's just, it is an equalizer, and it's a way for us to be able to sort of just retain social, connectivity. And so I think at the heart of everything we do, whether it's competitive gaming, whether it's everyday gaming or casual gaming, it is about making sure that we get to be with people who we love and want to be around, and who are passionate about the same things we are, and enjoy doing something together.
Yeah.
It's really the togetherness. I think that's the glue that holds a lot of gaming together. Even if you're playing, competitive Fortnite or your CSGO player, all of it is about community. It's about being the best. It's about being part of something bigger, and finding people who are like-minded.
Yeah. So connectivity, community. I love the fact that you have sanctioned Sunday as the time. You cordon that off for yourself. Yes. and for your friends. So just in a quick close, what is the one thing that you will leave CES 2026 with?
Well, if this was last year, I would say AI as the sort of overarching buzzword. I think what I'm going to leave CES with is, one, great conversations. I mean, I personally have been having constant conversations with brands, marketing agencies, et cetera, talking about what the next big thing is. How do we get in front of customers in different ways? And just the sort of vision and thought that's happening across the world, and people just having some really amazing ideas. That's the one thing. The other thing is I think every Lenovian should be extraordinarily proud of how we were represented at the CES.
Cheers to that.
I am so proud of the entire Lenovo team, the marketing team, the product team, YY and his team, everybody. It was such a showcase, such a highlight, and I couldn't be prouder of sort of how we represented it. And I think the products also speak for themselves, and I'm very excited to see them get in the hands of customers, get some real-time feedback, and continue to sort of innovate with stuff that makes people happy.
Well, and we couldn't be more proud to be your partner as well. Thank you, Carlo, for being here at Stagwell Content Studio, and I think that's a wrap.